Right, I'll start going through things now, and hope Keith joins us. I haven't heard from him, so hopefully he'll be there. Um, we've had a couple of new members this last week join, so that's quite good. Um, I had one that um, I didn't. He hadn't replied, so I thought we were going to lose him. But I've known him for years, so I did send him an email, and he's had a few problems, but he definitely wants to carry on, so he's okay. Now I've had Diane. We all know Diane from Australia. I have got the right one, haven't I? There's Diane from Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, Diane Cowling.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Diane from
Yeah.
Australia. She's been in hospital. Had an operation. She said she don't think she'd make it today, but she's still feeling a bit pain. So that's Diane. David, we're okay for now, aren't we? So David, we're all right for, because I did put that out because you said maybe, David. So I wrote that out just in case. Christine McIntyre. She sent me two saying she's declined, but she likes watching them. Tim Lloyd's apologised for not making it, but he said he should be okay for the 16th. And Jennifer Allen apologised, but she's babysitting. So that's the apologies. As I say, I haven't heard from Keith, so I'm hoping Keith is going to be with us, because I was hoping he was going to take over this morning. But as I said, I don't feel great. If any of you want to know why I've got this on, it's because my son asked me to join him with the November. That's called Movember. It's for men's prostate cancer and a few other things, to help with that. So that's why I've got this on.
Very distinguished.
Sorry?
Did you hear that? Very distinguished.
Well, that looks better than the beard, I think. The beard makes me look really old. Yeah. Kevin, you sent me an email about the BBC.
Yeah, the People to War.
Yeah, prisoner of war. That. Yeah, I got that. But I also, that's good. I'll add that to our research. But I also got a mail delivery thing come back, and your message to the list had all them replies that didn't go through. Now, I found this before, that if you've only put one link in, so that's not too bad. But I find if I put more than one in, I get this come back.
All right.
So be careful about your links. But you've got to put it in, of course, because I will add it. But I just thought I'd mention that to everyone. If you do send anything to the list, try not to put too many links in, because there's a new that started just over a year ago, that a lot of them now with the mail, if they have more than one or two links in, they reject it. So it's the mail servers are rejecting it. They think of spam, so it's one to get round the spam, I suppose. So that's nothing to do. That weren't your fault, Kevin. It's they've just been overcautious. Right, I got this one from Martin. about the camps. So what I'm doing, Martin, is
Yep.
I'm going through the camps again. I'm adding the Thai names, and I'm also using your list that you sent me. Well,
Right.
that's Rod's list, but I'm using it. Why he's done a lot of this, I don't know, because he was one who got the standard written, and he's not using the standard.
Yep.
So I just don't know what he's doing. I mean, if you're going to have a standard, use a standard. But he's now gone away from the standard in this list. So I don't know what he's doing. But anyway, it's good because
But that's the list he had he's got in his book. And
yeah.
so I just basically transcribed that
Yeah,
into
you
a
have.
into a
But
sheet.
you see, what happened in the end of 1900s, he got together with somebody else, and they made a
Neil
standard
McPherson,
list.
wasn't it?
Yeah, I just can't
Yeah,
remember
I think
who
it
it
was
was, but
Neil
they made a
McPherson.
standard. Yeah, that's it. They made a standard list for all the Thai camps, which we do tend to use. Keith uses it as well. And in this list that he's got in his book, he isn't using a lot of it. So I don't know. When did he write the book?
I'd have to check the date actually. It was several years ago now.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so what I'm doing I'll go over what I'm doing first. Ray, as most of you know, has been sending me the Thai names of the
Yep.
camps in Thailand, and I've been adding them to the Death Railway pages, Thailand, Burma Railway pages, and I'm not going to change the name of it because I've always called it the Death Railway, so I'll keep calling it the Death Railway. But I have put underneath Thailand Burma Railway, so that does distinguish it from the Sumatra Railway, and there are some other railways as well. The Sumatra Railway is the next one in line, I suppose, for the one that had a lot of deaths. Your dad went on there, was he, Kevin?
No. He was in Palembang, but
Yeah.
some of his battalion actually ended up on the death railway in Sumatra.
Yeah. Well, George. He used to, Captain George. We used to call him Captain George. Duffy? George Duffy? Anyway, he was on the Sumatra Railway, and I have put some pages on for him. And so I linked from the Death Railway in Thailand, Burma. I have put a link in there to go to his site on the Sumatra Railway. So we haven't forgotten it. It's just that I haven't honestly got a lot on the Sumatra Railway. I mean, the Thailand Railway tends to get all of the publicity. So that's that. So I started adding these pages. I was telling you, Ray, I started adding these names to the pages, which is good. And I think I've got the sign right, so it looks quite good. But then I decided, well, the site looked a bit old, so I'd start again on it. So I started developing it under the FEPOW family style, so it looked more up to date. And I got about 250 pages to do, and I've discovered that because I wrote them the end part of 1990, but I think I wrote them about 1999, it doesn't help the net fusion I'm using. All the fonts are different, everything's different, so I've got to start right the way through every page and go through it all again. Anyway, yesterday I had a great day. I thought, getting there, brilliant. But the thing crashed and NetFusion crashed, and I was having so many problems with it, I decided to put the whole thing over to NetFusion 2015. I was on it till about midnight last night, and I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, and that's why I'm really tired. But I think I've got it up and running now. So what you'll see now is the 2015 one, which is the new NetFusion and the new style site. And I'm going through everything, adding the pages as well, and with Martin's list as well. Instead of putting red where the camps are, I'm putting red where the station is, green where the camp is, and if there is a camp and a station together, I'm putting half and half. So you've got a round ring with either all red, all green, or half red and half green. Half red and half green is station, and camp. Camp is just green, and red is just station. So Martin, that sounds better.
Yep. Yeah, no,
So
that sounds great. Yeah, excellent.
I think that will, but it is taking a lot of time. But I think I won't finish it this year. I'll have to keep going with it. I've left the Java index for now. To be honest, a bit disappointed with the Java index because I don't get no feedback from the Java lot at all. I used to get quite a bit from Brian Green, who unfortunately died. I used to get quite a bit of feedback from him and encouragement to do it. But I don't tend to get much. Are you right, Bernard?
Yeah, I was wondering whether you saw me.
Yeah.
I can't get you on my tablet. I don't know why. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you okay. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm on the PC now.
Oh, great.
I can knock this off now then.
Yeah. So now you're okay.
Right, Ron.
Right. So what was I saying? So was I talking about the Thai Railway, Martin?
The Java lot.
Oh,
Yeah,
Java. Yeah, I'm a
bloody.
bit disappointed with the Java. They don't get back to me at all. And okay, I've done quite a bit to it, but if I keep going with the Java, it's going to I'm not going to be able to do much else because it just takes over. And I've still got about 5 Q files to go through for Java, and okay, it's okay now. You can use it and you can look up the Java parties, so it's okay. I mean, it's still there. You can use it, but I think now I might tend to step back on that and get going on where my dad was, which was Thailand. I mean, my dad was in Thailand, so I kept on leaving Thailand to get on with Java, and because you don't get no feedback from, you think, well, what the hell am I doing this for? You know, so I'll leave all the Java stuff on there, and there is a hell of a lot of stuff on there from Java. I started off with, I think it was about 1,500 to 2,000 names when I took it over from Anthea Beckett. Yeah, Anthea Beckett, who died. I took it over from her with about 1,500 names. It's now got about 31,000 names in there. But it's okay. It's a lot better than it used to be, and you can still use it. It's still quite good to use. But I think I've got a lot of other things I'd like to do, so I'll get on with them now. So yeah, I'm pleased with what you sent, Ray and Martin. So that's going to come on quite well.
Very good.
Books wise, Keith did mention it. I don't know if this is the one he was on about. Was that the one he mentioned? Anyone remember?
I think it was actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to read through it again. I did read it a long time.
I've actually found a a Dutch webpage,
Yeah.
which is called Pacific.net, and it's Pacific with a Y, so it's PACY and it's FIK .net, and it's a very, very, very comprehensive web page on all aspects of the Far East, and it's actually got a complete page written on the escape party from Sonkarai, and at the bottom of it also it's actually got a copy of the book that you can download.
Oh.
So it must be in PDF version, I'd imagine, but it's got here at the bottom James Bradley Towards the Setting Sun, and you can actually download it.
It's actually quite a good book. He didn't write it till I think it was the 1980s. So 1982. So it wasn't fresh in his memory, and he does tend to use a lot of other books. So he does write a piece and then say that comes from so-and-so book. So it's not like John Coast, where John Coast wrote it straight after the war, so everything was fresh. So there was a few years in between, but it's quite a good book. And there's one in here he mentions, and Martin, you might be able to find it for me. Just send me an email telling me what his first name was. He mentions Wilkie. Now, I've looked through the book, so I'll have to read it again, but one of the ones that escaped with him was Wilkie, and I didn't know if that's his first name or his second name, but I take it that's his second name. So if you can find his first name out for me, and I want to add them to the escapes, because I haven't got them in the escapes. Yeah. So I want to add them in. I think that's all from me. I'll let you have a discussion. Martin, if you want to come up with anything.
Well, yeah, essentially, what I've been looking at this week is this particular website, which is this Dutch one. It's quite detailed. It's Pacific, so it's spelled PACYFIK.net and then /. What the features that it's showing is it's got. Well, incidentally, this site's probably been going for about 10 years or so now, and there's several accounts which have been updated over a period of time. So it starts, with various bits and pieces. It's got the escape from Sonkarai. It's got the history and the construction of the Thailand-Burma Railway, which is across about 19 pages. And when I went through those pages this afternoon, I did find that it contains a lot of interesting original photographs that I've actually not seen before, such as there's a photograph of the Wargraves party with Eldridge. That particular one I hadn't seen. There were some photographs of some of the air raids on the Burma end of the railway, and some very good aerial shots of some of the the bridges which had been taken out and so forth. So it's quite worth having a look at if you're interested.
To save me looking through this again, can you send me an email with the address on it? And then I'll add it I've been looking at this page quite a while ago, and I'd actually lost the link because what had happened is I'd cleared my browser and everything and lost all of my information. So I've actually just relocated this afternoon by finding some old emails that I had. So yeah, look, sure, I'll send it across. Yeah, and then absolutely. I'll add it into the research for the members to look
Yeah,
at.
so
You know.
it's just got a Google. When you open it up, it's in Dutch. So you just it's got the little
Yeah,
Google tab, and you just
translate
translate
it.
to English, or you can translate to anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's quite detailed. There's a lot of information.
I had a Japanese
Some
one
of it,
the
of
other.
course.
Yeah. I had a Japanese one the other
So-
day, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, I'd love to read this. And then I thought, translate it. Come on, brilliant. You know, as all the
Yes,
Japanese writing, that come on, absolutely
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
it
It's
worked it
amazing.
through. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the research one is in the member section. So you've got to go through the password to get to that bit. But that's just for this. Now, what I've done is I'm now altering, because I had the research. I used to call it the Rising Sun. Now all my pages and pages people have sent me, and I added them in there. A lot of them now are way gone. The pages are not available anymore. So what I'm doing is I'm putting research into the FEPOW family, not into the member section, into the everybody section. So I'm adding them in there, and I'm going through them and making sure they're all live before I add them. A lot of them really come from the sites that I've done in the past. So we had Staglis join the FEPOW family the other day. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was thinking Staglis, and I came across him this morning. I wrote his dad's story about 15 years ago, and that's ever so strange when something comes up and that annoys you because you don't know what you've done with it, and then all of a sudden you come across it, and yeah, that was so that was another one.
Roger,
Right,
do you want me to add something about books?
go on then. All yours, right?
You know, recently there was Richard Flanagan wrote the Narrow Road to the Deep North. Well, on BBC World Book Club last night, he was interviewed about the book.
Yeah.
And it's quite an interesting interview with some rather surprising statements from Richard Flanagan.
And yeah, when I read the book, I was a bit annoyed with some of his statements. He doesn't like the English at all, or British, does he?
Well, I will have to verify this a little bit more because I must admit I was only listening to it about 90%. But not only that, he compared the British to the Japanese.
Yeah.
Which I found a little bit shocking.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit naughty. I read the book, and to be honest, he got awards for it, which was very good. But if he didn't want to write about, if he didn't like the British, why didn't he write about the Burma end and write about just the Australians? But some of the things he comes out with about the British, I found they annoyed me. So, okay, it was a good book. There's a lot of information in there.
Well, it's a novel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ronnie, that's one of his other things. He does say that you can't learn history from reading a novel, which is a fair point because I think we touched on that a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, but again, you know, I love history books, and I can't remember what it's called now. Oh, she wrote about 7 books on it. Nothing about the Far East. Oh dear. Oh, Clan of the Cave Bear. Have anyone read it?
Yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's about Britain in Stone Age times, and her descriptions are absolutely fantastic. The research she put into her novel was brilliant. Now, I like a book like that because you can read it and you get. To get away from the PO stuff, the POW stuff, I do tend to read a lot of history stuff, and I've been reading the Roman stuff. So I've been reading about Claudius and Vespasian, who was later emperor. And I've read one 7 7 books from one. Fabry was the writer, and now I've just started reading another lot from another writer, and the history throughout both of them is the same. Now that's good writing. You know, I like to read a book and get the history from it. You know, you don't, okay, the storyline is good, but the history is important as well. If you get the history right, but I don't think he got the history right in that book at all.
Yeah, and I think the problem is the people that were asking questions of him in the radio program. To put it in my words, they sort of looked up to him as being an authority on what was going on the railway. But by his own admission, he was, you know, he didn't research an awful lot. He'd only been to the railway twice, and he said that on the second time he vowed he would never go back.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I don't know, there's people that were sort of almost in awe of him because he.
It's 10:30.
Sorry, that's just the time.
Just because really he got a lot of awards for his book.
Yeah.
I mean, what he should have said in the book was it was a novel and don't take it for. That's what he should have said at the beginning, but he didn't. He just wrote the novel. And of course, when you're reading a book like I've been saying about the Roman books, you don't want a false name of an emperor. You don't want a false name of where they invaded Britain and where they landed. You want the true place they landed and the true emperor and the true commanders in charge of the Roman. You don't. You know, you do grab bits from a book, even though it is a novel. So I think I was annoyed when I read it, and I did. Some people were writing in Facebook about it. Brilliant, and I put, he doesn't like the British. We did have good officers. We did have some good officers. He can't just say all British officers were bad, which he does do. You know, in the book, that's what he says. You know, you can't say that.
Yeah.
And that's.
Go ahead, Martin.
Go ahead, Ray.
No, go on.
Okay. Yeah, look, one of the interesting points about the banter between British and Australian forces and wind up and who's accountable for what is interesting in the WA 106 series at Q. I've been reading through that recently, and it's basically a file of accounts of the Battle of Singapore, and if you read all the accounts written by the British officers, they've got nothing good to say about the Australians. If you read through all the accounts written by the Australians, they've got nothing good to say about the British.
No.
And it gets quite amusing because you read through it, it just becomes just this backwards and forwards. And I mean, reading Gordon Bennett's account, he gives all his reasons for what he did and et cetera. But then, on the other hand, there's counterclaims to some of his actions and some of the things that took place. So I think a lot of it you got to take with a pinch of salt, because I think a lot of it's is a bit of sour grapes on both sides. So I've actually sort of become a little bit I'm on the fence. I'm not really sort of taking anything too much from either side, and what who's to blame, what was the cause, etc. So it's quite interesting to pick up.
You've got to be very awkward, because Diane from Australia, her father was Australian, and what she says about the Australians, you've got to be ever so careful what you do tend to say about it. But
well, that's right, and reading this file is interesting because it starts to put some of that stuff into context, because there was a lot of sour grapes on both sides of the fence. I don't think any with British or Australian there was no one really to blame for for
the only thing that
some of those events that took place.
The only thing that I think Bennett did wrong was leaving his troops behind and escaping. I mean, there's something the British officer wouldn't do, although some did. But
Well,
most
they were
British,
ordered to, yeah.
most British officers stayed there and with the troops. Percival did, and Bennett was the highest Australian ranking officer. And I think really he never did get another posting, did he? After that, when he got back to Australia, they didn't give him another posting at all. You just don't leave your men. You don't leave them, But what went on with the ordinary British and Australians, you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. Dad said,
Yes.
if you wanted anything pinching, ask an Australian.
Yeah.
That's what Dad used to say to me. If you wanted something, ask the Australian. He'd definitely get it for you. Dad didn't have much bad to say about the Australians at all. In fact, he got on.
And
well
when
with
you read Weary Dunlop's book, he talks about the Manchesters being a bunch of thieves and nicking all the blankets and stuff and things like that.
Nothing different from Manchester.
Yeah.
So, Ronnie, I'd just like to come in on that. There was a BBC Two programme called Arena, and they did an interview with Richard Flanagan. It must be about a year ago, and it's quite good actually. I mean, you see the factual stuff in the book's not true, but I found it quite moving. If you actually watch it it's called Arena on BBC Two. You might be able to catch it up on iPlayer.
I think his book, don't get me wrong, his book is very well written, but he should have said at the beginning it wasn't based on any fact, because people don't realise that, and they're reading his book and thinking there is fact, and a lot of it, a lot of it isn't fact, and I mean, how many times in his book does he say that the British officers were terrible, didn't look after the men and all this, and he does go on a lot about it. So he's most likely heard it from someone. And there was some bad officers, but there was bad officers all round. There was bad officers from all nations. Even the Japanese had bad officers. But a lot of the officers did look after the men, like Toosey. I mean, the Ptarmigan Bridge. He looked after his men. Did anyone follow the Facebook thing on the bridge over the River Kwai?
Oh yeah.
Oh dear. Oh, my dad hated it. My dad hated the film. He really did. He wouldn't watch it. But again, that was a well-made film. And let's face it, it did bring the FEPOW's cause to the general public. So after that, there were so many tourists want to see the bridge over the River Kwai, which it wasn't.
They renamed the river, didn't they?
They renamed the river, so the
Yes.
Thais actually renamed the river for the tourism, which was brilliant. I mean, so his book got the river renamed. But no, it's how does a Frenchman know what went on in Singapore or Thailand or wherever? He weren't even there, But again, that did a lot. That was a good film. It was well made. There was good acting in it, but the storyline wasn't absolutely true, was it? I said in Facebook, he got three things correct. There was one bridge over Ptarmigan, which we can say. I said if we're finicky, there was two, which it was. There was Japanese guards, and there were British POWs and Australian POWs. Well, I just put POWs. They're the only three things I think he got right in the book. The rest of it was a load of rubbish. But no, that did well, because at the time people hadn't really heard about the Japanese and everything, and the guards and the camps. So that did do well. People started to talk about it, and that filled a gap, didn't it?
Yeah. There's another thing on the BBC iPlayer website at the moment about kamikaze pilots. I've not. I think it's a radio program. I've not listened to it yet, but I will do. And if it's of interest, should I send a link to everybody so they can have a listen?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Sure.
I think it is. This is a bit of what's the word? Oxymoron. Where there was a surviving kamikaze pilot.
Yeah.
So
he didn't know how to fly the plane.
he got cold feet at the last minute, or hot feet. So if that's of interest, I'll send a link to the group. And
there was a good book a few years ago about internees, wasn't there? And the young lad got friendly with a young Japanese in the camp, and in the end, right at the end of the book, the young Japanese has taken off in his plane as a kamikaze pilot, and so he's waving to him as he's taken off. That's a good book as well. I can't remember that. I've got the book, and that was a film. But any more books?
Just on that subject of the kamikazes surviving, on this Dutch web page, there's actually a whole page dedicated to kamikazes, those who survive their death.
Yeah. Oh, after you crashed a plane, I wouldn't like to. I don't think I'd like to survive.
Yeah, but there's actually interviews with ex-pilots of kamikaze on there as well.
Yeah, dear. I mean, that was really their lifestyle, wasn't it? What they thought about and why they thought the British or the POWs, why the POWs shouldn't have been captured, shouldn't have been taken as prisoners. And that's one of the big things Dad said, that they didn't give us a lot of respect because we shouldn't have surrendered. But after the war, how many of them killed themselves? I mean, not a lot, did they? So I mean, their Bushido didn't really do a lot for them after the war. Right, David, come on, David. Let's hear from David.
Yeah, well, I bought this book. You've probably got it. You probably know about it, Ronnie. What Price Bushido?
Yeah, by Alf Baker.
It's not pertinent to my father particularly, but I was at the last coffee poll meeting, and I had a choice of this or Towards the Setting Sun, and I bought this, and it really does show the brutality of the Japanese. It's quite an emotional read, I found. Out of 600 men that were sent to Rabaul in New Britain, 18 men survived, and they were rescued by the Australians. And it really does go to show the brutality and what these people what our guys actually suffered. And it's certainly a damn good read.
If you have a look in, again, we'll go back to Roll of Honour. I do stick a lot in the Roll of Honour. If you have a look in the atrocities section under the 600 gunners, that is the whole story.
That's the one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in touch with Alf when he was alive. He did actually send me his book signed, so I've got his book.
Yeah.
Alf, he stayed at Rabaul. He didn't actually go to Balali. So he didn't really know what went on. And I got loads and loads of files on it. I wrote the pages, and then I got loads and loads of files on it. And the gunners were believed, though the Japanese said the ship had sunk after it left Rabaul. And then I think it's about 3 months later, the ship was supposed to have gone back to Rabaul, which is never mentioned. And now in the Q files, they got statements from one of the Rabaul POWs who said he actually saw the guards who went off on the first ship come back for different things, from which were left at Rabaul for the prisoners, and they went off again in the ship. And he thinks the prisoners were still on board the ship, which, you see, we don't really know what happened at Belaley. Although there was a grave with 400 odd graves in it, bodies in it, they didn't have any tags at all, so no names have ever been known. The Chinese on the island of Belaley, the Chinese workers, said they thought the POWs on Belaley were Australians because they wore Australian hats. But there has been different things found on Belaley that did belong to the 600 Gunners party. So the bodies that were recovered, what happened was the Americans were bombing the islands, and they, one or the other, the Japanese fighters or the American fighters, decided that they would shoot parachutes of pilots that had bailed out, and they were shooting them on the way down. So both sides started doing it. Now, I don't know who started it, nobody knows who started it, but both sides started doing it. So there's a lot of hatred going on there between the pilots and everything. So the Americans bombed Belaley, and the Chinese said that a lot of them that were buried in this mass grave were killed in the bombing raid. So we can't say, because we've always put it down as an atrocity, that the 600 gunners were all killed by the Japanese because they built the strip on Belaley, the airstrip on Belaley, and they then decided that they didn't want them anymore, so they got rid of them. But that isn't the case, because a lot of them were killed in the bombing. And the Japanese, according to, if you have a look on that atrocities thing, you'll see that I've put the Japanese statement in the war crimes and the communications with the ones at Rabaul, who actually saw them go back to Rabaul. That's all on there. And the Japanese officer said he knew one POW was killed and he should have done something about it, but he didn't. And that was a bad guard had killed one of the POWs. But when the POWs died, they didn't bury them on Belaley. They took them out to sea and buried them at sea. So the ones in the grave were not the natural ones that naturally died. They were ones that either got killed at the end when they didn't need them anymore, or were killed in the bombing. That's ever so interesting, and one of the families got in touch with me. They'd actually they took a memorial stone to Belaley and laid it at Belaley for the Gunners Party. And another chap, if you have a look at that site, turn the sound on, because I've got music by, he's really a folk singer, and he is a professional folk singer, but his grandfather was at Belaley, and he wrote this piece of music for him, and I've actually put it on there. It's quite moving. You said about half spoke, but you listen to the words in the music, you'll get a tear. It's quite good, but there's still a lot not known about Belaley. Alf Spook is okay, but he didn't really know what went on in Belaley. So he's telling you all about Rabaul, but he's not telling you about the 517 who went to Belaley.
Yeah. I mean, as regards my dad, I mean, this obviously isn't pertinent to him, but I've got this one from Pat Garden, who was captured with my dad, survival in Malaya, and Pat was in Poodoo with my dad, and he was one of the 4 lookouts when the 8 escaped from Poodoo, and they were captured and shot or beheaded. I don't really know. But my next sort of thing is to try and find out what happened to him at Non-Pladdock and at Ubon, what conditions were like with there. And Ray's obviously helping with Ubon.
Well, my dad was Non-Pladdock, so he was there a good year.
Where, sorry?
Yeah, my dad was at Non-Pladdock.
All right.
So what happened, he was in the June parties. So he was sent early, and the June parties had to get the huts ready and everything ready for the parties come later.
Yeah.
And so he actually was at Non-Pladdock for about a year.
All right.
And he only went up country when the Japanese moved the service further up country, because everything was going from Non-Pladdock at the time. If you have a look at my dad's site, that's on Far Eastern Heroes.
Yeah.
If you have a look at the FEPOW family in the research bit, the research bit I've just put on, his is in there. That's Private 5776807. That's what I've called it. And he does tell you a lot about Non-Pladdock.
All right.
He actually although I've said this before, although the June parties were up there early, they didn't have it as bad as, say, F Force, who came later and had to march 250 odd mile, I think it was. Absolutely ridiculous. Through the jungle, and those men were mostly sick before they actually went up there. Yeah. So they really did have it bad. And another thing I found out, I know H Force went after F Force, and over the years you forget things that you've written years ago, and I've been going through this Death Railway thing and everything. Now, F Force went first. They cleared the jungle. So they were clearing the space for the tracks. H Force come along afterwards, levelled where the tracks were going to go and laid the tracks. So F Force had it worse because they had to clear the jungle.
Yeah.
So they had the biggest death rate, which is over 33%. They're said that 1,000 POWs died at Songkran. It's rather frightening, really.
A lot of the Australians in F Force didn't even make it up there. They ended up in Tarseo at the hospital there. Because I've been looking through the Tarseo hospital records, and there's a whole section of Australian F Force in the hospital. So they arrived sick and didn't even make it right up to Songkran.
Yeah. Well, the Japanese promised the F Force and H Force they were going to be sent to convalescent places. That's what they promised them. But of course, they had the worst bit of everything. I mean, again, John Coast's book. You've got to read that. John Coast's book about F Force is really good. That's a terrific book. And you said
it's a Bible.
It is. That's got to be. I mean, he got everything. He wrote that 1946, so he'd only just gone home. and it's really everything is fantastic. And he was a writer before, so he's put the book in, and it is a fantastic book to read.
What's the book again?
Yes, it is.
Railway of Death, is it?
Railroad of Death. No, Railroad of Death.
Railroad of Death. John Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get the old one. I've got the old one, but the new one has got more appendix at the end, so it's got a lot more information they've added.
What was his surname? What was his surname again, Ronnie?
John Coast. Coast.
Coast. All right. Yeah. Okay. Great.
David, how did your dad get from Poodoo to Non-Pladuk? What happened?
I don't really know. All I know it was.
I can't hear you. Just a minute. I ain't got my earplugs in.
All I know it was transported there. I'm trying to get chronological sequence because it was part at one point. Because he went from Poodoo to Non-Pladuk, and then from there up to obviously to Ubon. But at some point he went by rail with 400 other POWs, and I'm not sure if that was up to Ubon Ray or from Poodoo to Non-Pladuk. I don't honestly know.
I think it would have been to Non-Pladuk. But it's interesting how he was in jail in Poodoo, and then, you know, that hellhole that it was, and then somehow or other he came out and ended up in Ubon. Well,
they did ship a load out. Poodoo was a very overcrowded place. I can't remember how many it was built for. It was a civilian prison, but at some point there were 700 or 800 POWs in there. And following the escape, eventually Pat Garden, he was moved out with quite a few others, and I'm just presume that my dad was moved up to Non-Pladuk for work on the railway. But how he actually got there, I honestly don't know. And I've no idea what the distance is between Kuala Lumpur and Non-Pladuk in Thailand. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it would have gone by rail, I've no doubt.
Yeah.
Whether that was 400 from Poodoo, I honestly don't really know. I've got it somewhere, but
I've got the two trains from Kuala Lumpur. They were 1942, 10th month 14, and there was 390 on that one.
That might have been the one. Certainly 400-ish.
And then the other one was 400, I'm sure it is.
Oh, well, that would be the one then,
There were 401. There were the two trains, and they both left October the 14th, 1942.
Yeah, well, it was 400 plus, so...
Yeah, so all in all, there was 791 from Kuala Lumpur sent to Thailand.
Yeah. On the same day, Ronnie?
Yeah, on the same day. There's two trains left on the same day.
Looking back, I mean, I'm bloody lucky that it wasn't part of the escape party, really. Yeah. And I think the only reason it didn't go, really, was because he couldn't pass as a local and didn't know the area and, didn't speak the languages, so...
Well, that didn't stop him before that, did it, David?
Well, no. It certainly didn't, but I don't know. I mean, I was telling you earlier, Ray, that there've been so many books with him, and I spoke to this guy Stephen Snelling, who was an author, who put me onto this of all things. I don't know if you picked a book for boys, and
that takes me back.
Comic strip.
That book's in good condition as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good, so it's probably worth a fortune in a few years' time.
I've still got a lot of my old books in the false roof. Roy the Rovers. I've got about.
I bought that online actually, because I was told about it. I bought it online. It's so I've done quite well with that. But that's the one you're on about, Ray.
Yeah.
Jungle is Neutral.
Yeah.
It's a good book. The only thing is, it's a vast majority of it is about Chapman's early life, and at Sebra School and when he was in Greenland on the expeditions and things like that.
Yeah.
There's probably about half of it that actually relates to, the war. So, but yeah.
But, just for everybody's benefit, I've just finished reading what's it called, Jungle Soldier.
Oh yeah, Brian
Moynihan, which is about Freddie Spencer Chapman, who was in the Behind Lines party in Malaya it turned out to be the SOE, but originally it was 101 ST. STS.
Yes, special training.
Really, really good read. A very interesting ending. I won't give it away, but it shocked me when I got to the last page. It's quite emotional. But David's father was in this Stay Behind party, and that's David and I met at one of the FEPOW AGMs a couple of years ago. Just sat on the same table at lunch, and it turned out his father was at Ubon, which is the airbase or the airstrip that I'm researching. But what fascinated me more was David's father's story, which is unbelievable. You must be very proud of him, David. And
Yeah, I am, Ray, and I'm doing a lot of this because of my dad. Because I never spoke to him about it really, and it's only I came across FEPOW by accident. I was starting to do a bit of research about my dad, and I just came across FEPOW online, and I thought, I'll have a look at that, and I joined it. And obviously, of course, I met you there, and I've learnt more about it. Of course, I had the book, The Jungle is Neutral, and of course, I'm doing a lot of this really for him. But it's.
I'm just wondering, Ronnie, have you got Freddie Spencer Chapman on the Roll of Honour at all?
Probably not, because he wasn't caught.
No, he wasn't a prisoner, was he? But
No, he wasn't.
And neither was he an escapee, but he was certainly,
I doubt whether I've got him on the Roll of Honour, because most of my Roll of Honour I get from records. So if somebody gets in touch with me, I'll get the records. And of course, there's not much you can do with ones who weren't caught.
Yeah.
You can't tell them much. So I doubt what I have. If it is there, that would be in Site Memorial.
He was a very different man when he came out of the the army, wasn't he, David?
What was it?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Freddie, and it's spelled FREDDY.
No, I haven't got him. I've got Roland Totty Chapman. That's my wife's father. And I've got William George Chapman, who was in Royal Norfolks.
Right.
They're the only two Chapmans I've got.
It was a major. It was a major at the time, but later he rose to lieutenant colonel. It was with the Seaforth Highlanders, but he was second in command at 101 STS at Palabrani Island, because Jim Gavin was in charge at Palabrani. And my dad was the demolitions instructor there, so before he went SOE, before he went Stay Behind party. So
that's also funny though, Dave, because my dad didn't talk much about it. So the only reason I started researching in the 1960s was he lent me his diary. So I read through his diary and got some information from there. But he didn't even tell me the boats he went out on. Well, he did mention them in the diary, but I thought all the 4th Norfolks went out with him on that boat. But then I found out later that they didn't, because he'd joined Div HQ, and of course they went out on a different boat than the 4th Norfolks. So that a little bit of information, I then realised he wasn't with the Norfolks when he went out there. He was with Div HQ. So just a little bit of information, and then that starts. You get Right, John. Yeah,
Yes.
you're on there now.
Right. Can I go back to David and ask David a question about, and Ray probably, about the missing books in the Arboretum? Is that problem been resolved yet?
No,
The
no,
books are still not there.
no. It's not. It's not. They're not books. That what they are.
Well,
It's
no,
the files.
yes, that's right.
And no, it hasn't. What I've done, I've actually resent my dad's page to FEPOW because they were on about starting the files again, basically.
Yeah.
But do you know the story behind it?
Well, yes, a little bit. Yeah, perhaps fill me in.
Well, did you see my piece in the last newsletter?
No.
About the AGM.
No.
I sent a letter. I sent a letter in saying that I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
And I put in the letter that a silly dispute like this should result in these files being taken. But it wasn't such a silly dispute after all that, because the person who removed these files from the FEPOW accused the trustees of corruption, basically. And it got really, really nasty. And of course, I didn't know about anything about this until I went down to the last AGM, you see. And it came as quite a surprise. And I was quite upset about it, to be honest, that they took these files away. But no, it's WTO's in and nothing's been resolved. So.
The trouble is with a big organisation like FEPOW, I built their first computer for Arrow about 1997, and I built their website about the same time. So I built their website, and at the time there was no help like Keith and everyone. She'd only just tried to start it because she just found her father's diary.
That's right, yeah.
And so she'd only just started, and then I talked her into I'd write her a website, which I did, and so I wrote the first FEPOW website. And I used to answer all the queries, so all the queries came through to me. That was okay. I mean, it was a small concern, very similar to what we are now, and I enjoyed it. But then Carol was only interested really in publicity, and so she wanted to have people with names involved. Where to me, like us, we're talking FEPOW family. I mean, we're all concerned with the FEPOW. To be honest, I don't like big organisations. I just don't. That tends to get away from where we are, what we're talking about. They're talking about meetings and they're talking about money. I don't like that. I had enough. We had our shop for 37 years. I don't want that. I just want to get.
But when you get onto that scale, it's like running a business anyway.
That is a business.
Because
that was a business.
Yeah, because
because
they're handling so much money.
Yeah, she was involved in getting the money together, funds for starting off.
I sent at least 5 files up to the my father's records. A friend of ours whose father was in the 39th. What was that? I'll come back to that one. But one of the ones was George Reynolds. George was in Taiwan and worked in the copper mines. He was in the artillery. He fought at Kotaguru and then was captured, and then went on to. It was in Singapore. Then went on to Kotaguru. He's still surviving. Some of you might have heard of George, and I think he's 97 now. His birthday is the same as mine, as was my father's. So George is on the 21st of July as well. And I met George in the first time in about 1978. Now, a fellow called John Cove, who's a member of Kofi, his father was it Omni in Japan? His father was there, captured there. And we did a sort of an interview with George and his life story. And it's over 5 hours. And I've got a disc and I've got the details on my computer. It's quite a file, and he wants it shared. I was going to lodge it with Kofi Pow, but at the moment I'm loath to do that until something's sorted, I suppose. I might be wrong, but anybody can have that now. How will I deal with that?
Well, if any files you want putting on, you can always ask me to put them on. I'll put them on the website. I mean, whichever website you want them on, really. I mean, if that's concerned with, say, a father or whatever, or granddad, I do tend to put them on the Roll of Honour. But if that's a longish story, I put them on Far Eastern Heroes.
The video we've got is I bought a camcorder, a cheap camcorder, but it didn't have a disc with it. Now I had an old disc previously, but it was out of date. So you need to have a program LVC, something like that. I'll get all these details here.
Yeah. Well, if you've got the disc, have you?
Yeah, I've got the disc.
Well, I can convert it.
Yes, on my. Oh, can you?
Yeah, I'll convert it to MP3 or something like that. MP3 is the best one to put on, and if you want to, I can add it to the videos on the OneDrive, so everyone can look at it.
He wants it. I sent him a copy of it in April of this year, for his own copy and his own records. But he wants his story told. Over that 5 hours, he tells of his war service before the war.
Yeah.
And his growing up, if you like. The part of his capture is unfortunately not very long because he doesn't want to talk about it. He sometimes he's crying when he's talking and he's laughing when he's talking. You know, it's very moving day it was. You know, and
well, send me a copy and I'll see what I can do with it. I'll convert
I'll
it and see what I can do. I mean, that might be a Far Eastern Heroes one.
Yes.
If you send us his details with the disc, I'll see what I can do.
All right.
That would be a good one to put on. That'd be a good one to put on.
You can get it round to everybody then, can't we? On the
I'll put it on for you. Right, Bernard.
I'm here.
Come on, Bernard. You're not getting away with not saying anything.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to sign off. I'm afraid, fellas. My dinner's ready now, so I've actually got to go.
Yeah, we forget. That's what time is it in Australia?
About 11 minutes past 7.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, before you go, did you watch the match? Rugby.
No, I didn't. No.
Oh, the Australians were rough. No,
I didn't see it.
6-0.
Right.
Very close. They won 6-0. I mean, we thought they'd win at any rate, but 6-0 was quite a good score. Being they were beating the others 58-38, that was good. That's a funny old game, though. Rugby league.
Arthur, before you go, you're from Australia. Have you heard of Di Elliott?
I'm actually, I live in Australia, but I'm actually originally from Britain.
Oh, right. But have you heard of Di Elliott?
Sorry?
Have you heard of Di Elliott?
I've heard the name, yes. I don't know her, but I know the name.
Well, when my story first broke in 1997, I had a lot of information from her, and she sent me a book, and it was called J-Force. And J-Force left Singapore to go to Japan. That's where I got a lot of my information. It was all typewritten.
Right.
I haven't spoken to her for quite a few years. I don't know whether she's still around.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know the name. That's I've heard Rod talk about it before, but I actually don't know her.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
you go and get your dinner, Martin. Go on.
Okay. Good night, everybody,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Good night, Martin.
and good luck in the cricket.
Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, I don't think we're going to do much at
Nobody's
all.
there.
No.
I lost cause.
Turn them off.
Yeah, see you later.
All right. See ya. Bye bye.
Bye. Right. Yeah, that is a bit awkward with Martin because, you know, their times are a lot different to ours. So, 7 o'clock at night, that's his meal. So, yeah. But, no, we're talking to Bernard. Come on, Bernard.
I couldn't get on. I tried to get on with my tablet, and it wouldn't open up. I clicked on the link and I've been waiting since 7 o'clock this morning, Ron.
Oh, dear.
But I thought
Yeah.
at 10 to 10, I would see if I could get on, and I couldn't get on. And that's when I tried my PC. If you remember when we tried it
Yeah.
before, you
We
couldn't
couldn't get this. No, we couldn't get your sound.
I noticed on the screen now that the audio was turned off.
Oh,
And I've cured that now.
yeah.
But I can't understand why I couldn't get on. What I wanted to do was to go into my emails, find the email that you sent me with the invitation, and that's how I clicked on it, and it opened up.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
was
you're
it?
okay. You're. That's not as good a picture as on your tablet.
No.
You've got a lot of light in your picture.
Yes, I can cure that.
Yeah. But no, we can see you. You're not so pretty as you normally look, but you're all right, mate.
Oh, I didn't put any makeup on today, Ron.
Yeah. I can't see your eyeliner. Yeah. I can honestly. We're talking about Bernard about you getting off. I would still have a little giggle about it. I can just see you getting off this plane in Singapore with your trench coat on from Wales. I can still see it, mate.
I don't know what to background, honestly. The furthest I've been was when I was in the forces. I went to Berlin, and that's, and I can remember when the troop ship was pulling away from, I think it was Harwich we went from, wasn't it? And we went to the Hook of Holland, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know whether the grass was a different colour or what.
Yeah.
But that's the furthest that I've been until I went to Singapore.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots to
And
see.
you had to guard. Who did you guard?
Hess, route of Hess.
Hess. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to.
Were there any more there?
What's that? Sorry.
Were there any more war criminals there?
Yes, there was 4 in there at the time. It was a big prison, 400 cells, and there was only four prisoners.
Yeah.
I think because there was Hess, and Hitler's doctor was one, wasn't it? Was another. I know. I saw the 4 of them.
Did you communicate with them, Bernard, or no? You just guarded them.
We were up on the walls in
Oh.
the sentry boxes on the walls. He was sort of. He went up this ladder inside the what would you call it, the box on the wall, and you were bolted. They bolted the door after. You couldn't cut down, and you had your rifle, you had your bandoliers of ammunition, you had a Bren gun, and boxes and boxes of ammunition with that. Now, a Bren gun takes more than one person to operate it, so that was no good at all. No, I can remember that. I mean, we had to use a telephone if we saw somebody taking photographs or something like that,
Yeah.
But no, it was. I can see it today now. Old man.
Yeah, we were talking in when we had that meeting that the conditions compared with what the POWs had in Japan to what the conditions they had, the German prisoners had.
Yeah. I tell you what I did see once when we were going on our patrol round the prison. There was, I suppose, 4 or 6 of us marching around together with an officer. And one of the places that we passed, there was ovens. So whether they burnt prisoners in there, I don't know. I actually went to Belsen.
Yeah.
I stumbled on that, and it's unbelievable. There wasn't a sound. There wasn't a bird singing.
Yeah, we went to one in south of France. We actually came across it, and we stopped and had a look around.
Yeah.
And as you said, there was no birds singing at all. That's completely quiet. Completely quiet. They know, the animals know there's death there.
Yeah.
And that was completely quiet. And it was near Lourdes. We'd been to Lourdes, you know, in the south of France. I do like to see what people believe, and so we went to Lourdes to see. And honestly, that's fantastic. There was people on stretchers. They'd wheeled them from hospitals, and they take them to see where well, I can't remember who was there now. Anyway, they take them to see the statues and everything, and they got blood dripped on them and everything, and they're just laying there, and they're wheeling them around because it's such a sacred place.
Yeah.
But then we left there, and there's only about 10 mile away was this concentration camp. So you had Lourdes with all these people. Oh yeah, the funny. Just quickly, a funny thing. They were lighting candles, and they had this blinking great big, huge table, and they all had these candles. They put a candle on and light it, you know, and all this family would come up, and they were lighting these candles, putting them on, and one of them, he couldn't find where to light it, so he poof off the table with about half a dozen put his in the place. I thought, well, that's religious. That's really good. That's really good. Yeah. But then about 10 mile away, we came across this concentration camp. It's, you know, when you think that, you know, there's all these people, religious and everything, and then 10 mile away, they were being killed in a concentration camp. It's horrible, really.
Well, how I stumbled on Belsen was that we in Berlin, we had a sports day. We won the tournament. So we were taken then to play another tournament in Hanover. And it was whilst I was there on a Sunday that we decided to go out for a walk in the forest. And I got to admit, I was most naive about what went on in Germany. I didn't have a clue. And anyway, we stumbled on this bit of a clearing, and there was these huge mounds. And there was like a signpost on the top, and it would say 2,000 bodies in here, and 3,000 bodies in, and you know, and so on. And I didn't even know what it was about. I mean, I was 18, 19-year-old, and I was in the forces, and I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue until I came home that I realised what it'd been. Yeah, but it's quite eerie.
Yeah.
The bird. So,
I'm going to have to log off now. I'm sorry. My family is downstairs, and my daughter's gone back to
Did I put your dad's site?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Yes,
I
thank
did.
you so much for that.
I kept on worrying me if I did put everything on.
No,
for you.
it was great.
As long as I did it. If anyone does, if I do forget, remind me, because I have so much to do, I forget things. My mind is not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Listen, thanks. Nice to see you all again, and hopefully see you next one.
Yeah, the next one's 16th, if you can make it, John.
Okay,
And
lovely.
and everyone, next time, a glass, and we'll give them a toast.
Yes, that's right.
All right.
Okay, I'll see you all shortly.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you, John. Bye, Nico.
Bye.
Right. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Bernard, come on. You've told us about Germany. Now, I love Germany. I love visiting Germany. I do like a glass of wine, and the Moselle and the Rhine and the Black Forest we used to go to quite a bit. We found the Germans actually very friendly after the Russians and the Allies left.
Oh, they hated the whiskey.
They got very friendly, but when the Allies were there and the Russians were there, they were very off-putting.
Yeah.
You know, you went into a shop and they wouldn't talk to you and things like that.
No.
But after they left, I mean, they were ever so friendly. After we left and the Russians left, we got on really well with them. They're very similar to us, really. I mean, they're more like us than the French. Don't we agree?
We found the Germans okay.
Don't you like the Germans? Don't you like the Germans, Dave?
Yes, we had German workmen working in the camp, and I used to be in the woodwork shop, and we had an old fella working with us there, a German, and we could ask him to go and fetch us things like we wanted a radio.
Yeah.
Oh, I doesn't remember this radio, man. He was called a telephone gun. And we didn't have any aerial. We had a piece of wire sticking out of the aerial port, you know, and one of us had to hold it.
Yeah.
But no, founding the Germans very good.
Yeah.
You know, but even then, our men used to treat them terrible wrong. We'd be catching a tram home back to the camp, and they would literally throw the German civilians off.
Yeah.
When you come to a stop, they'd throw all these people off, and I couldn't go along.
Yeah, we went to Yugoslavia when the Russians were there.
Yes.
And we actually caught a bus over the Alps. That's the Julian Alps. We caught the bus over the Julian Alps to a market. There was a big market, and we went to this market, and there was a lot of Yugoslavian, the peasants, the women with all their black gear and everything, and you know, all the peasants, not Muslims, you know, the peasants wore black gear. And we went to the market, caught the bus going back, and a lot of the peasants had been to the market to buy stuff, you know, fruit and veg and everything. They had their baskets, most of them had baskets, and they sat there, and the Russians stopped on the border. They stopped the bus and got on and went through all the peasants' shopping and took out what they wanted. I thought, they left us alone. I suppose they knew we were British and they left us alone. But that was rotten. We really feel like saying something, but of course you can't. But they just went through everything.
Well, when I was in Berlin, I did a couple of train guards, and it was Berlin was circled in red. They were the forgotten army. If anything happened in Berlin, we were forgotten about because they couldn't get us out. They got the Russians and the East Germans were all around, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I remember we took some prisoners to Bielefeld prison, naughty soldiers sort of thing, you know, and we'd get so far into the Russian sector, and we'd have to collect all the ID cards of our personnel, and we had to hand them over to the Russians. Then we'd have to wait in the station. Then when they went through all these, and the other time I did a train guard was when the battalion came out of Berlin, and of course we had a goat mascot as well. They even wanted to search the goat mascot. The goat was taken off the train as well. But, we had to pull all the blinds down. You could only travel by night, and you had to pull all the blinds down in the windows for you to go through into the Russian sector. You know, the war was still going on, wasn't it?
Yeah. We went down the east side of Germany, and we saw, because the Russians were still there. Well, no, the Russians had just left when we went down the east side, and everything was still bombed. I mean, everything was still as it was after the war. And this must have been in the 1970s.
Yeah. Berlin was still flat when I was there.
Yeah, we really did hit it. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah.
Have you come on? You've got to say something, mate.
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to ask Bernard a question. Bernard, what ship did your dad go to Singapore in?
I don't know. There is a record with the name of the ship on it, but I haven't got it.
Yeah, just because I sent a link to Ronnie. It's called People's War, and there's an account of a mutiny in Durban, and it involved the REOC, but it was the fourth section, and what it was is they were going to get put on a ship in Durban to go to Singapore called the City of Canterbury, but that ship had been used as a prisoner of war ship for Italian. And it was an absolute terrible state. And even the dock workers refused to work on it. And the REOC and there was some RAF personnel all refused to go on the ship. And he ended up, they were going to charge him with mutiny. But there was a sergeant major who stood up for them and explained why they wouldn't go on the ship. And it was him that got charged for mutiny. The rest of them got put on another ship and went to Singapore.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that ship. I know somewhere in the name of the ship was Maru. M-A-R-O or something like that.
Right, okay. Yeah, just it's a really interesting story because this Sergeant Major got took back to Liverpool because the South African authorities refused to try him for mutiny because they knew it was a genuine story. And he ended up going back to Liverpool. And can you remember the MP Manny Shinwell?
Yes.
He actually got him out of prison because it was a completely ridiculous, trumped-up charge.
Whereabouts did the mutiny take place? Was it in Halifax? No,
in Durban.
Yeah. Well, in Halifax, the Northumberland Fusiliers, they refused to get on the ship because they had a good ship going from Liverpool to Halifax. When they got to Halifax, they refused to go on the ship. They just refused, and they said they were going to be done for mutiny, but they didn't in the end. They didn't do them for mutiny, but they just refused. They refused. They said because that wasn't one of the big American liners. That was a small ship. I can't remember the name. And in the end, they refused to go on it. But your dad was with the 18th Division and Signals, wasn't he, Bernard?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't with the 18th. My uncle was.
Bernard's dad was with the 18th Division, but because they were spread, I don't know what boats they were on. Yeah, I've got the Norfolks and the Suffolks and the Cambridges and everything. I've got all them and the Beds and the Northumberland Fusiliers, but I haven't got the small ones, like the signals, because they were put on different ships.
Yes, yes.
My father was in Northumberland Fusiliers.
He was with them, was he?
And
Yes,
the Felix Russo was his
Oh.
ship.
yes, he was with them.
Yeah, because
Ah.
my uncle was in the Northumberland Fusiliers.
So
He
that
was
could
on
have been
Felix-
connected with what you're talking about, then, Kevin, because
That's what I was
they were being threatened with, because they threatened mutiny, so they were being threatened. So it could all
But,
be connected with that same thing.
yeah, it's an interesting story. But my uncle, he was in the Northumberland Fusiliers. He went on the Felix Russo. That
Yeah.
was the ship that took him to
Yeah,
Singapore.
that's the ship they went to on the end, wasn't it? Not
that's
the
right.
first one they were told to go on.
Oh, no,
the
the-
first
that
one they refused.
The first ship is when they sailed from Liverpool. I think it was the Warwick Castle.
Yeah. But then when they got to Halifax, they were going to put them on another boat, but they refused to go on it because that was a small boat. And so in the end, they put them on the other boat.
Mount St. Vernon, I think that's Mount St. Vernon. I think that was a ship that were on in America.
Yeah. That could
It's an
be
interesting story.
that could be connected with Bernard. If yours was with the Northumberland Fusiliers, Bernard. That
Yes,
could
no,
be.
I've got the names of the ships that they went on.
Yeah. Find
Yeah.
out for me. Find
Yeah.
out so I can try and piece it together.
Yes, in my father's diary that I've got, he names the ships of how they got from here to Singapore. One of them was the Halifax.
Yeah, I've got the ships in. That will be added to the research one. It's all in the William Sale 12X convoy. So that I've got all the ships and the big divisions, or the big regiments like the Norfolks, Suffolks, Northumberlands, and Beds and Herts. But again, I haven't got the smaller ones like the Signals and the engineers. I haven't got all them because they were put on different boats. So you can't say they were all put on one boat.
They went from here to Bombay, didn't they?
Yeah, Bombay, South Africa first, then Bombay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
My father.
When they got to Bombay, the Vernon was sent on to Singapore, so they got there. They actually did fight in Malaya, didn't they? From the Vernon.
What I can do, I was going to say, Ronnie, what I can do, I can send you that story. I mean, I know it's on the BBC's People at War story, but I can send you as a Word document if you want to have a read of it. And you can
Yes,
pass
please. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
that might put together something that we haven't thought about, because I know they did mutiny. They didn't want to go on the ship, and they refused to go on the ship, and they said they were going to take them. They were going to charge them, but in the end they didn't. But
Sergeant Major. Yeah,
I think when you're thinking about it, Kevin, when you turn up at Halifax and you see these big liners and they were stuck on a little ship, and they said that was a worse ship than what they come from Britain on, you can understand why they didn't want to go on the small ship.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I'll pass that on to you.
Yes, please. It's been good. Is there anything else we want to talk about?
What time dinner, Ron?
Yeah, my dinner's soon. Yeah.
What are we having? What are we having, Ron?
Yeah. Is there anything else, Ray?
No, it's fine.
No, I think we've covered quite a bit, haven't we? Yeah. On the next one, we will go into Christmas more. I was going to do it today, but to be honest, I don't feel terrific. So I'll do it the 16th. And we will talk about Christmas in the camps. And I have got a website on there I did put on years ago, and it's all about Christmas in the camps. Little bits people sent me and, what happened in the camps. So I'll get that out, and so we can talk about that. It's interesting that some of the Japanese were Christians, and they did actually let the prisoners have the day off some of the time. But when you think about Hong Kong, which surrendered on Christmas Day. That must have been a good Christmas for those in Hong Kong. Dear, oh dear. Anyway, we'll talk about that next time. Nothing else more?
No.
I was hoping we might have seen Louise today, Bernard.
I did email her before I got on to you. I did email her, and I said, "Are we going to see you on Ron's video this morning?"
Well, what I'll do is I'll send her an email, because we know that her father was Reverend Cordenly, who must have done a lot at Christmas for the prisoners. I know he took your dad's cross to up country, so he took that up to Thailand with him. But that would be nice, really, to have Louise on board on the next meeting, so she can tell us a bit about her father.
Now, Ron, before we go, remind me now, how do I connect? Is it anything to do with the email that you send us with the invitation?
Yeah, when I send you an invite, look down the invite and it says join meeting. All you do is click on that and that takes you into the meeting.
Yes, because it says yes, no, or maybe, doesn't it, on the one link?
Well, I don't have to do that. Come on, Ray, you go in. Explain how you get in.
Well, I click on the link on the email.
Yes.
And that takes me to a screen that says download application or join or something like that. Because I've already downloaded the application, I just click on that and boom.
Yeah. I got on it this morning by pure accident on my PC, because we did try before with Ron, and we didn't have any sound. But I see on the right hand side of the screen now there is audio, and mine was switched off. But I've cured that now.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that it came on.
Yeah. Well, that should be fairly easy for you to get on, Bernard. I mean, if you have any problems, just get back. But you've got on with me a few times now. I mean, we did the meeting on this, so you got on there. Yeah. And I hear you. Well, have you made up your mind about getting a laptop yet?
No.
No.
It's quite hard to part with the money, Ron.
Well, yeah, but I just think of it though, Bernard. Emails are the new thing. Carrier pigeon is the old thing. Go for the new thing, mate.
Yes. I am.
Next time you come on, Bernard, can you get some earphones? Little earplugs.
Why is that?
Because you get feedback.
Oh, I can put my earphones on.
Yeah, next time put your earphones on, then you don't get feedback. Okay. All right?
Okay, yeah, that's all right.
It's been really good, and we'll both have a go at Louise and try and get Louise on next time.
I do know that her son James is on a little bit of leave now at the moment, and they got a nice little grandson, and the daughter Ali, they're all staying with her now at this time. So whether that's the reason,
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
But we really want to get her involved. I want to do a meeting with her so we can talk about the cross and when he took it up country and everything.
Yeah, I sent her an email. I said, Louise, I've been there, I've done that, I've spoken to her.
Yeah. Anyway, that's been really good. I've enjoyed it. Although I don't feel 100%, I don't honestly. I think I have had a lot to do on the computers trying to do a lot, and I'm not really as young as I used to be. And,
Oh, come on, Ronnie, think positive.
oh dear. Sometimes, Ray, I look at it and I'm typing away and I'm typing the wrong flipping things and I'm looking what I typed and I'm such a load of mess. And oh dear, I used to be able to really type very quick, but I can't now. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, we are getting we're getting old, but you're a bit older.
Yes, a little bit.
You're only 10 years older than me.
My hair gives it away, see.
Yeah, but mine's thinning out. Oh, I'm growing it around here just to make up for this bit.
I used to be jet black.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I did tell you, didn't I? We've lost my mother's half sister this last week.
Yeah.
A funeral's on Friday.
Well, did you get the picture I sent you of your sister with the Changi cross?
Yes.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, I put your meeting on there, and the lady wrote and said that she'd been to see the Changi cross, and she actually met Edith. It was Edith, wasn't it?
Yes. Edith, my wife.
No, well,
My sister.
Your sister.
Frida. Yeah.
Yeah. She met her about the year 2000.
That's right.
Yeah, and
No,
she was. They let her hold the cross as well.
Yes. It would be later than that. It would be 2000, 2001 or 2002.
Yeah. Oh, you are precise, aren't you? Anyway, thank you all for attending. It's been really good. Thank you all, and hope to see you on the 16th.
16th, yeah.
Yes, 16th. Yeah, don't forget, give them a toast. So have a whiskey by the side or a glass of wine.
I'm not allowed any of that, Ron.
Oh, you're not. All right, a glass of water then.
Yeah, cup of tea.
Yeah, cup of tea.
Yeah.
Right, I'll stop it now. Thanks all, and see you later.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.